Hi, I'm Dawn. Today I want to talk about the science of soul recognition and activation. And as with any spiritual journey, as far as I know, there is so very little that can be proven. And that's a big part of the point. It's to bring us into trusting our own divinity, our own intuition, our own spiritual guidance, and to come into that knowing, if you're not already there, but probably to grow even more into that knowing that there is an infinite creative force at work within the universe and within our lives, and how there's so much more beyond what we experience with our five senses. The soul incarnates as consciousness, but in order for it to truly experience, it has to forget what it knows. I call this the unknowing soul or the oblivious soul. At soul level, the soul has access to the knowledge of infinite creation of source energy. But when it incarnates into the 3D, it has limited access because it's not at that soul level frequency while in the 3D as consciousness or the unknowing soul. As consciousness, though, the soul flows through the chakras of each twin. For me, when I first looked into my twin's eyes, or it could have been in combination with the other senses of touch and taste, hearing his voice really very deeply resonated within me. Even now, if I think about his voice, I can feel a tingling right in my heart chakra, and it sometimes lights up my whole body. And that's when we had soul recognition. So the soul recognizes itself in the other body, and I think this happens in divine timing, and it recognizes its flow of energy, which is itself flowing through the chakras of the other body. So once this occurs, it recognizes the two bodies as one. Because before it was aware of the other body, it didn't realize its energy there, even though there may have been subconscious indications, or maybe some things sometimes were shared between the two. But at soul recognition, the flow of energy through the chakras intensifies, and it's like a supercharged adrenaline rush, which is divine energy. And that's often referred to as divine feminine, divine masculine, which are energetic traits we label as being masculine or feminine, but it's simply us in our authenticity, living to our true design. So, in this moment of soul recognition, the soul as consciousness is flowing through each twin and its divinity. And all of the imbalances that each twin has picked up throughout their life, such as traumas, wounds, conditioning, everyday life, vibrations, high and low, anything that is imbalanced is brought to balance. That's why at soul recognition, we feel no fear. We're confident, creative, giving, receptive. Whatever the moment calls for, we operate in our divinity, as opposed to the wounded energies that have caused our chakras to be out of balance. When our chakras are each at a healthy vibration, this is our divine design. Also, we get to feel the unconditional love we have for our other self and that they have for us, but also we're shown the love that we're meant to have for ourselves. And this is all without realizing it at the time, but we come to realize it as we embark on our spiritual path. So for me, soul activation occurred within 24 to 48 hours of soul recognition, which is our soul awakening to itself in the other body. However, our mind can't quite understand this all at once, and it has to gradually learn. But from soul recognition, our growth happens as one, though the timing of it will likely be different because the bodies are still each their own to an extent. So once the soul is activated, the imbalances of the chakras slowly go back to what they were before soul recognition. So, for example, if you were insecure or bitter or emotionally unstable, maybe had trouble making decisions or speaking up for yourself, your soul went from its intended frequency in that, which was being in that divine energy, you being in that divine energy. So, when it went from that divine energy back to those imbalances, it threw the soul into shock. So we have this combination of coming down from that high vibration, and our mind didn't really understand it to begin with. And it's probably still trying to process some of what happened long after, like, why did you feel this way, and all of that. But then come the imbalances that are usually far from your soul frequency. So these imbalances are expressed or experienced through the ego, because as I talked about in Traffic Circles, part 15 of Soul Spark, the ego is our default for experiencing and expressing when our ego and intuition are out of balance. So, for example, if you had a lack of self worth, depending on the state of your chakra's energetic flow, you might handle that differently than how your twin may handle it. If they have a lack of self worth, they may react to this soul shock with what we call running energy. They may not want to face you because they don't feel they're good enough, or maybe they're afraid of rejection, but you may handle it with chasing energy, like making demands or whatever. Or you could be in running energy also. It can be any combination of the two. But how you each handle it is dependent upon your personal conditioning, traumas, and such. And it's often described as being polar, and a lot of cases it is, but not in the electromagnetic sense of push and pull or positive and negative, as some believe. Like, that's true to an extent, but it's not the dynamic. Like, I watched videos and read some posts about this early in my journey, and I listened at first, and I tried to make sense of it because at the time I was really confused. But it didn't resonate with me. After like a couple of weeks, I started really opposing that idea. It just didn't resonate with me as I began ascending. And later I came to have my own understanding, but that understanding had to come to me gradually in order for me to take it all in. Okay, so as I was saying about when our soul isn't in good flow, the access we have to send and receive sensations with our twin is not in good flow, because we're operating out of ego more than soul. And the ego is somewhat exclusive to each person, though I think there's a subtle link to it, but it's not something easily channeled because it's more closed off to the soul when it's out of balance. So, just to give a visual, imagine the chakras look like this and vibrate something like this, though each chakra vibrates at a different frequency, such as the root chakra is a lower vibration in its healthy flow state than the heart chakra in its healthy flow state. So, this might be what that looks like if we were able to actually see the energetic flow. And I referenced the chakras before as being like traffic circles to help make sense of the flow. But taking the healthy chakra example that I just showed you and comparing it to this might be what an imbalanced chakra looks like. And they have colors associated with them, but they aren't of those colors. They're an energetic system, but auras are picked up by sensing colors, and this is linked to the chakras. So I used the black and white example here because out of balance can actually throw off your auric field as well. Okay, so there are a number of ways to balance our chakras. Mostly it's finding our authenticity. But I've recently been experimenting with sounds and chants, and I actually feel a vibration in the areas of the seven main chakras. So I'm going to keep working on that to see what happens. But you can look up healing chakras to find what resonates with you if this interests you. But when we bring our chakras to a healthy balance, we actually can feel expressions and sensations, experiences with our twin even more. And this falls right in line with aligning with our soul, because as we do that, we get back to our soul frequency. We are open for union. And it makes sense that we would feel our other self even more as union becomes a viable option. And I would like to note, I don't think that balance is about being perfect. I think it's more about loving yourself as you are, where you are. And in that, I think we're guided to work on whatever is needed for us to be in our authenticity. And that's going to look different for everyone. So, one last thing about activation, it brings these imbalances to your attention. And for me, the first thing I was faced with was self love. And once I began that, even with just a small step, I began ascending. And that's when I actually first experienced telepathy with my counterpart, and the obsessive feelings gradually dissipated. And I began getting back to my divine flow, my design, which was there all along for me to access through my balanced flow of consciousness and the chakras. It's just like with my twin, the more balanced that energetic flow is, the more open I am to channel with my twin and other dimensions. So I hope you'll like the video and subscribe if you're interested in seeing more. Thank you for watching.